I can't believe it's already the 29th. Oh my god.
I know.
I do not want July to come in.
No. No, it's going to be over. We're going to be in August before you know it.
Let's get rid of the. Let's get over the conventions. I just want them over.
No, none of our people are even going. It's almost like it's not even happening.
Everybody's pulling out. And it hurts the Dems too, because if they're bipartisan, if they don't go to the R's, they're not going to the D's. So they have pulled out
completely. There's a lot of industry saving a lot of money. That's what's going on. I'm talking a lot of these lobbyists are like, yeah, it's a huge part of our budget that we save. So, well, again, thanks for your time. And so, just in talking about social media and being a chief of staff for a Democrat member or Republican, I mean, it's not a partisan thing. Social media in your office, how much of an influence does it play? First of all, how active is your office in it?
It's not as active as I want it to be, and that's because of the member who is trying to understand how social media works. Within the last 4 years, we finally got him on Facebook. So it's taken a while. And because he didn't know what is the end result of social media. He's finding out that now because as floor speeches, you put it right onto your website, goes on YouTube, and then when he sees how many likes and how many people have viewed, then he goes, oh my god, this is great. And then that kind of now enables him to go, let's do some more. So it actually helps him in a way to go onto the floor more, do 1 minutes, and influence, and then he sees what goes on. So that's how I think it's an interactive. If constituents see me doing something on the floor and it's important, he'll go on the floor, especially with what's going on in our district, especially with drought and all that.
So it's interesting. So this being relatively new to him, does it influence him?
Influence him as far as what? I mean,
do you feel like, since what I'm finding is when I'm talking to members and staff, I'm finding that staff has a more realistic perspective of social media than the member does, and we find that with pretty much everything. Mm-hmm. So a Facebook post that may not concern you because you understand it's just a Facebook post, does it have an elevated importance to him, or maybe not as important to him because he doesn't know social media like the staff does?
I think it is influencing him a little bit because he asks everyone in our office, have you seen the latest, what's going on in people's Facebooks, industry's Facebooks, different, different organizations within our parties, like what are they talking about? Because, as you know, being more in the middle, if he sees, say, labor doing a lot of things and it's on Facebook and, this is what we want, then we've like, it does influence us as like, should we not do as much? Should we be more quiet, be under the radar? Or do we just go, this is how I really feel? So at the end of the day, it does influence us on what's going on certain social media. That really affects our district.
Do you weigh in your office? Do you weigh a response from social media against other ways of communication, a phone call, an email, an in-office visit, or do you view them all the same as far as importance?
I think social media we weigh it a little lower. It's not as high because my boss is old school, so a lot of it is mostly if somebody emails him, mostly phone calls because he's accessible. So if somebody leaves a voicemail, or talks to us, he weighs that a lot more than, it's on Facebook, or Twitter just came out saying, blah, blah, like, right? Because a lot of times that's not the facts. I mean, he likes, these are emotional things a lot of times. People what put on Facebook is emotional. So before we even consider something, we'll check the facts. Versus a phone call, you're on the line. You can say, so where did you get this? Why is this concerning? Let's find out. He likes the one-on-one more. social media for him is more of a secondary and more a tool for our office to send out the message versus him looking at Facebook and what they see come to us. So we don't have that many followers yet because he's new at this. So for him, it's like we're trying to throw things out.
Do you think that his viewing social media as secondary, as far as constituent concern, do you think that is because, from a chief of staff's perspective and understanding the medium, do you think that it's because he doesn't fully understand it yet, or do you think, as far as your district is concerned, that's probably an accurate assessment that social media should be secondary because it doesn't hold the weight that other mediums do?
I think it's half and half on that, to be honest. He doesn't. He's understanding it more. If you asked me a year ago, I would say the first. I think now it's more. He understands it more, and it is secondary. It's not that he doesn't understand it, but at the end of the day, he's still trying to figure out what does it do to our district. What does that social media affect on Facebook that we have? Where does it take us? We don't get really that much information out of it. So he says, there's nothing much, it's all emotions. So he understands that people will write anything they want. They get just angry and they'll just write something, or if it's really great, they'll say it. So there's no legislative issue that we can. So it's to him, it's more of like, quote, a social way to talk and communicate, non-factual mostly, just emotions.
So, as a senior staffer on the Hill, just in general, looking at the dynamics of the Hill, do you think social media has added to the gridlock that we experience, or has not played a role, or somewhat, or
added gridlock to the experience to how it works?
To us moving things. I mean, I know right now the 24-hour news cycle is often blamed for adding to the gridlock. One of the reasons why I decided to kind of do this is because eventually, when I do my dissertation, I think I'm going to do something on how the 24-hour news cycle has jammed up the workings of Congress, debt ceiling, XM Bank, member pay raises, things that usually were perfunctory, now shut the government down. Do you think social media plays a role in that? Has it reached that level? Will it not reach that level? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's getting there. I mean, look what happened last week. Using the social media to record the members on the House floor when C-SPAN couldn't show it live, they were using their own, so it influenced. I mean, we were getting lots of calls regarding that in a positive way, saying, wow, people are actually, they care. I guess a lot of times you don't see what members care. So it's starting to get there. Yeah, I think it will be an influence very quickly, I think, but it's unfortunate that something so big as this violent act that happened in Orlando happened to now have social media all over the place. I mean, even what happened in England, social media was not used, I guess, in a good way. It was used to, I think, a scare tactic. It's like, oh, if you vote for this or you vote this way, this is what's going to happen. At the end of the day, look what happened. People the next day, like, oh, what did I vote for? Which is scary because that's where social media, if that's what social media is doing in the beginning, I'm afraid, because the outcome is not going to be good for anyone. For the people who are against or for it, because now it's going to be scary, even for us, even the presidential. I mean, it's all about emotions. It's right. That one statement, but nobody understands that what's going to happen next. So social media is just taking off. Facebook, everybody just, if you're on a feed, like, oh, you see this blog, they're like, oh, let's go in there. But a blog is just what it is. People take that for a fact, but it's just someone's opinion.
Right.
No one does any fact check.
I had heard someone say that social media has made people more engaged but less knowledgeable?
I agree with that.
Would you agree with
I
that?
agree with that. I definitely do. It's almost like, who was I telling you? I was at an event last night, and I said, this is weird. Everybody loves to have a cocktail, but sometimes when you drink the cocktail, you drink more because it makes you feel better, and then the next morning you regret what you drank. Well, that's what is happening now. Everybody is into social media. Oh, this is good, and they're looking at more. It's all good until that action has to happen.
Right.
The next morning, like, oh shoots, I shouldn't have done that. Or luckily, you can take aspirins to help that, but in real life, you can't do that with any kind of vote or any kind of direction we're going.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. So, overall, social media, has it been a positive influence, negative influence? Jury's still out on Congress and its functioning as a body.
I think it's still out. I don't think it's. I think it's still out because again, when we're in all these, and I'll start with the media, just regular media. If you are a Republican, most Republicans watch Fox News. If you are a Democrat, most people watch either CNN or some of MSC, and that's all we take your news. I, on the other hand, in my office, I watch Fox News, and people always say, why in the world? Like, because I need to know what the other side is thinking. And, a lot of it is right, but I understand the parts that I disagree, I look and find the facts. And social media, being Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, it's one way only. It's very hard, and everybody just gets entrapped. And so you're only going to go to this one blog or this one Facebook page or this one tweet. And then you start thinking that way. And it's very hard to remove yourself from that. And it's very hard to, I don't want to say argue with someone else, but kind of have a very adult conversation like, no, this is what it is. Everybody also gets emotional. This is wrong. This is what, so I think social media is actually doing that as well. I think it's to me, it could be very negative if people continue doing that and not really looking into the facts, really looking into what the next steps are or what it means. Everybody's like, they just hear sound bites and they use those sound bites and then people start believing it because they heard it from one, they heard it from somebody else, and that's what social media does. Oh, I saw it on Facebook. Well, I never knew Facebook was the go-to place for your information. If that's going to be the case, and I'm very afraid, especially with the young kids. My staff, the interns and my junior staff, get all their information off their phone. They don't pick up. They don't even look at roll call. They don't look at the Hill, the paper that we get. They, like, well, did you see something? I'm like, well, I didn't see it. Paper sometimes are. I like the paper because you actually get some information. You actually get to read it, and there's some things there. Local. So our district is very rural. So social media doesn't really. That's why it's slow for us, because everybody still has papers. Even though our staff there likes to look at the social media of that page, sometimes we don't get anything until you get, oh, this is what happened in the print version. Like, well, it's in the print, but it's not going to be there. I mean, you'll miss something. And sometimes I think some of the older papers still have the old school. They put their reporters, and they do that. I'm very nervous about it all going to Facebook. Or any kind of, or a web page which links their Facebook. I mean, I don't know now. Some pages are their Facebook. It's just it's starting to blend in.
And news gets washed away.
Yeah, and you only see certain things. You cannot, like in the paper, you can see. Look how you see. You can't see that on a web page. It doesn't get me. So I'm scared about that.
Right. Perfect.